Why then do the scenes in Mission Control show charts and graphs on the flight controllers' consoles? The flight controllers during the Apollo missions were looking at black screens filled with long columns of tiny white numbers. Jerry Bostick, a flight operations veteran whom you will meet in the book, was acting as a technical advisor on the film. He complained to Howard, who replied that there are some things an audience just won't accept, and computer displays as incomprehensible as the ones the flight controllers actually used are one of those things. That was 1995, and the screens the controllers used seemed improbable even then. Today, the thought of relying on them seems crazy. We went to the moon with technology that, in retrospect, makes the Enterprise look like a romantic, impetuous gamble. Impetuous it wasn't. The Saturn V might not have had any nifty microprocessors on board. The microprocessor wasn't invented until 2 years after the first lunar landing, but it worked every time, and its power dwarfed that of any launch vehicle made since. The engineering of the command module and lunar module was so ingenious that it brought the crew of Apollo 13 home despite a catastrophic explosion. The flight operations system, invented from scratch for the space program, proved itself a model of how to make life and death decisions in seconds. The proof of the technical excellence of Apollo is its record. But Apollo was indeed romantic and indeed a gamble. For readers who are new to Apollo, the people and events we describe may already sound like a story from long ago and far away, when people in the public eye took enormous risks and held nothing back. Things often went wrong, sometimes disastrously wrong, and still they did not falter, did not make excuses, but figured out what went wrong, fixed it, and proceeded, taking new risks. They covered ground in giant strides. Contemplate for a moment the bare bones of their timeline. On May 26, 1961, John F. Kennedy committed the United States to a successful manned moon mission before the decade was out. On July 21, 1969, Neil Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin walked on the lunar surface, an elapsed time of 8 years and 8 weeks. Imagine that on May 26, 2011, President Obama had committed the nation to send astronauts to Mars before the decade was out. No one would have taken him seriously because that's not the way things work these days. In our world, what the people of Apollo accomplished is almost beyond imagining. Welcome to their world. Charles Murray and Catherine Bly Cox, Burkittsville, Maryland, the 17th of January, 2019. Prologue. May 25, 1961. On Thursday, May 25, 1961, President John F. Kennedy awoke to a glorious day, the kind that compensates Washingtonians for the oppressive summer to follow. The pleasant chill of the night was giving way to temperatures in the 70s. The skies were clear. The gardens on the ellipse were in full flower. It was the perfect setting for a new beginning, and a new beginning was what Jack Kennedy badly needed. In this 5th month of the new administration, the country was in transition between Eisenhower's 50s and the years that would be remembered as the 60s. In movie theaters, the hits still tended to be big stories with big stars playing good guys. The Guns of Navarone with Gregory Peck and Spartacus with Kirk Douglas were drawing crowds that spring. Popular music was still Elvis Presley and Connie Francis, the Marcells and the Shirelles. It would be more than 2 years before the Beatles had their first hit. Prices were still 50s style too. The Washington Post that Thursday morning informed its readers that they could buy porterhouse steak for 79 cents a pound at the A&P, or a 4-bedroom house in fashionable Chevy Chase for a price in the mid-20s. As for unrest on the campuses, there was indeed a loud disruptive demonstration at Harvard that spring, but it was to protest the substitution of English for the traditional Latin on diplomas. Timothy Leary was at Harvard, still an anonymous teaching assistant, just beginning to experiment with a new drug called lysergic acid diethylamide. But the Post that morning also had harbingers of things to come. Mississippi jails 27 riders, read the banner headline, referring to 2 busloads of Freedom Riders who had been arrested in Jackson, Mississippi. Their offenses consisted of trying to use the whites-only restroom and eat in the whites-only cafeteria. In other front-page news, Secretary of State Dean Rusk had gone out to Andrews Air Force Base to welcome Lyndon B. Johnson back from his first...